right, g'day Navicastarians. Welcome back. Furns in your ear holes again after a couple of weeks off. Apologies for my absence. I had a family emergency going on a couple of weeks ago. Things seem to have settled down, which is great. And big ups to Andy and Matt for doing a podcast in my absence. Unfortunately, we weren't able to keep the streak going. Luckily, the Jets were able to look after things on their side. But I'm welcoming back my fellow host. He's had an upgrade in title. Matt, mate, welcome back.
I appreciate the recognition, Grant.
You did well, mate. You did well. For one that was off the cuff and done over a phone, I think you did pretty well.
Well, relatively well anyway. For the one-off that we'll do, and I'm sure that'll probably be the only one that we'll do. But
you never know what might happen in the future, so don't jinx it. But look, at least we know that if I am unavailable, someone else can step up and take over the reins quite well. So I'm not irreplaceable. So I'll have to pull my socks up and make sure I'm keeping this ship ticking over. Now, look, we've had, like I said, we've been off for a week, so we're 2 games to go over. The end of the away trip where the Jets did well against Adelaide, stayed over away from home and made a trip out of it. I'm sure that was fun for everybody, and ended up in Perth for the game on the 13th. We just worked out that's when that was. Mate, it was another good result, and we're not really going to spend a great deal of time on this game. It was a good result, a 3-1 win. They ended up with a red card, and for the most part, we were pretty dominant throughout the whole proceedings.
Yeah, it was just, I think the only negative on the entire night was the fact that we conceded a goal basically in injury time. It would have been really nice to keep a clean sheet over there, especially after they got the red card. Yeah. But I don't think that there was really any point during the entire match that I didn't think that we were going to come away with 3 points. Converse to how I'm tipping.
Do we want to queue up? Maybe just quickly talk over the highlights. Talk through the highlights as we watch them. I'm just going to quickly scroll through the Paramount. There it is, Perth Glory versus Newcastle. We'll just quickly talk over the highlights package as a way to sum up the game. And like I said, it was yet again an unchanged lineup. Millsy's really happy with picking the same team week in and week out. And while we're, so many wins on the spin, you're not really going to want to change things. So he's got players coming back and he's putting them on the bench rather than putting them straight on from the start, keeping the same team on the pitch.
It'd be very difficult to, swap anything at the moment. The way that results are going and performances are going, why would you? You don't upset the apple cart.
Yeah, absolutely. So just having a look at the first chance was Lockie Rose making a pest of himself yet again, running between 2 Perth defenders and just narrowly putting the ball wide. Lockie Bayliss gets the scoring going with yet another goal. Beautiful little shot with the outside, gets around a couple of players, and the keeper's just sitting there going, what the hell just happened?
I think everyone was expecting the ball to go to Shaughnessy off the corner. Since we'd had sort of success with that in the week prior or the couple of weeks prior, we've actually scored our first goal all year off a corner. The well worked training pitch sort of move, and Bayliss, I guess a couple of weeks ago, if you go back 4 or 5 weeks, you certainly wouldn't be expecting him to be like a major threat on goal, but over the last couple of weeks he's run hot, so you give him the ball as often as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. A player reborn. Obviously found it difficult to make his way back into the team after being injured sort of in the off season. Had a bit of a bit part appearances through the Australia Cup campaign, and was basically making do with coming off the bench. But once a couple of injuries happened with obviously Battleado out for the season and Grozos, he's got his chance and he's basically made himself undroppable.
Oh, yeah. And perfect timing for the young guys as well. Like, in the lead up to the World Cup, it's been spoken about a few times, but he would have. I'm pretty sure they mentioned over the weekend that there were international coaches from New Zealand over here, watching him play, and he did his part once again. So, yeah, I'll revisit comments from a couple of pods ago that when him and Taylor first came into the game, it really looked like Bayliss was going to be the standout of the two, and unfortunately injuries have kind of curtailed a few of his not performances, but chances to sort of cement himself in the starting lineup. But being able to come back into the team in maybe slightly fortuitous circumstances where it was maybe injuries that sort of accelerated that progression. He hasn't let anyone down, and he's probably added an extra element to like what was a team that was already going well is now going even better for the impact that Lockie Bayliss has had from just outside or around that 18-yard area.
Not to jump ahead, but I did watch the full replay and the post game of the MacArthur game, and they actually had Lockie Bayliss interviewed after full time before they spoke to Mark Milligan, and there was mention to both of them about his indispensability, for want of a better word, and basically just asked what happened, and Lockie basically said, well, the time on the bench actually made him. It spurred him on to work even harder and prove himself indispensable. And when he got his chance, he's kept that momentum going, and that's what sort of made the difference and really turned around his fortune. So it was actually the period of time that he wasn't playing that was actually the big motivator.
Yeah, I thought that he had a bit of a slow burn start, when he came into the starting lineup, and when he was being used as a sub, there were still a couple of occasions where there were some misplaced passes, etc. But since he's certainly gotten up to the speed of the game and gotten that match fitness up, he's been right up there. Like it's really tough over the last half a dozen games to pick who the MVP in the Jet squad has been. Like, if you go back, you would say Rose or Adams or Taylor or like Battleado early season, but over the last 4 or 5, you've probably got to say it's like Bayliss is right up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice little tangent there. We'll kick on to the go back to the highlights, and that was well, you could say it was a shot, but maybe it was not quite as close. Hits the back of the goal net. And now we see, another close effort with that. That was Dobson in the middle of the box, getting a ball, a nice bit of lead up play from Rose and Taylor. Taylor being involved again. Oh, sorry, Adams and Taylor.
They seem to, have a part in everything good that Newcastle do in an attacking sense. The front three, and like you add Wilmering and Bayliss into it, and they're certainly firing. When it comes to output in an attacking sense, like they're, if clubs had the opportunity to sign any of those players, they would, like anyone in the A-League at the moment, they would march straight into the starting side. So as much as we're not top for individual goals or not top of assists, I don't think that I'm pretty sure that if Melbourne could sign Lockie Bayliss or Adams or Taylor or Rose, they certainly would be. Like even though Matter is doing some fantastic things at the moment. Wellington are having all kinds of problems, even though they've got the equal top goal scorer. But we're not a one-dimensional team. Everyone expects us to go out and just attack and play this beautiful football, which we are, but it's just not coming through one focal point. Like every single player in the attacking half at any one point, like Dobson included, he's, I'm not going to say fallen off in the last couple of weeks, but maybe just attracted a little bit more attention in the last couple of weeks because what he was doing 3-4 weeks ago, he's you know, popping a little bit more tighter marking and all the rest of it. But he's even on the weekend, sorry to skip ahead again, but I noticed how tightly he was being marked, but he was still able to come up with those, individual moments of brilliance where he'd beat a player and, have a good crack on goal. So I don't think there is, I would not like to be in the shoes of an opposition coach at the moment where you're trying to work out how to shut down the Jets, because it's not a matter of just shutting down one or two players. It's about shutting down an entire, attacking organization. And the way we retain the ball and recycle the ball, we're just going to wear everyone out. It's, very Brisbane rule like from the Ange days.
Yeah, and as we'll talk about when we get to the Bulls game, that we did have to come up with a different way of playing, but we were definitely fairly comfortable in this game, and we saw the second goal happen just after half time. A little corner, Dobson to Eli Adams, and then just flicks on to Lockie Rose, gets his foot on it in traffic. No, it was Bayless. And then, the ball squirms its way through to Lockie Rose, unmarked in the middle of the goal, and it's just a simple tap in for him.
And what else can you say about it? Like short corner routine, like we've proved that guys like Shaughnessy can do it in the middle. And as soon as they start, sticking, they start predominantly sticking to man marking in the middle of the pitch, then we're going to play it short, and we're going to find another way through. Like, which I think is probably the preferred option for the majority of the squad. Given their heights, etc. There's not too many of them that'll win the one-on-one duels, but if they send two or three out to mark the short corner, we'll send it in and find someone like Shaughnessy who's going to knock the ball down. So once again, it's probably something that's developed over the course of the year, and that's why it's taken 16, 17, 18 matches to find these other avenues to goal. But it's just another string in the bow.
And it's the reliability of the players that are on there. They've developed the relationship over the last, what are we in now, 18 rounds. So Eli takes the corner, Dobson gets the ball, cuts it to Bayless, who does the cutback across the goal, and Lockie Rose is there to tap the ball into an empty net. And it's those sorts of players that are always involved. And if it wasn't on that side, it'd be obviously Clayton Taylor and whoever else, and Max Burgess in the middle or on the other side, working it from the other side. So, we've just got these players have been playing together for unchanged lineups for the last 8 games. I think is it the same number? We haven't rotated the squad since we haven't changed. We've named the same starting 11 for the last. Is it the same number of wins, or is it he has changed it? I think it might be slightly less. I think it might be 6.
I think it might be 7.
6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I've got a feeling that there were 1 or 2 changes very early on, but maybe injury enforced.
Yeah, I think Grozos was available for a couple of games before he went out, and I don't think we've changed it since Bayless has been starting and Burgess has been CDM in Grozos's absence. But yeah, just the relationship developing between the guys playing week in and week out. Not just training, but obviously on the pitch at game day sort of really helps develop. They know where they're going to be, and they're able to, work these little routines, and a lot of the time, and just luckily for us at the moment, they're all coming off.
Well, can confirm that Roslos played in the first win of the calendar year. Sorry, I'm just sort of scrolling back through results and looking at lineups as you're talking. So it's definitely not 8 in a row. It probably is 7 though.
Yep.
So since the Melbourne City game. Grossos played in that actually as well. So yeah, it might be 6. You may be right, Furns, which is why you sit in the host seat. So
it was a figure I pulled out of my ass, but I'll be quite happy to to take the guess as a win. Awesome. So yeah, that made it 2-0. Thanks to Lockie Rose. He was very happy with that, and that puts him on top. Put him on top, I think, for the golden boot for the competition. I think that gave him 8. Now we get to look like the third is another run at goal, cut out in the middle of the park. This is the red card. So yeah, last offender was that Caltech?
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Fortunate
Ben
for the
Gibson
guy as well, because he's general. Yeah, Caltech and Gibson and general, like, unfortunate for Caltech, he's generally been like a pretty sort of solid defender, but just good run by Gibson, used his body, really well. It was a good ball from Adams, I think. Yeah, it was from Adams.
Yep.
Gibson run across him, just outside the 18, drew the contact, and it would have been 1-on-1 with the keeper if he didn't, make contact then. So as much as Gibson sort of hasn't scored in the last 7 or 8 weeks, he's still sort of come on and played his part when he's been called to in those sort of last 10 minutes or whatever the case has been. So it's once again, it's good to see that we've got options sort of coming off the bench.
Absolutely. Third goal.
And that's a great segue into the third goal, which was another option off the bench.
Yep. So in the 80th minute, it was a brilliant ball into space from Bertolicio. Coda runs onto it, cuts inside, and then crosses the ball. Bertoncello hits it first time on the volley, and boom, 3-0.
It was just close enough, or didn't hit it as hard as what he did on the weekend. But he's made certainly a bit of a habit of, as far as cutting in from the left and getting the ball on his right foot and slotting it away. He was one that played a really big part in the Australia Cup, obviously, and early in the season, and not lost form, but maybe just lost a little bit of confidence. So the fact that we had other guys like Taylor and Adams sort of able to come into those sort of similar positions, as his form was sort of starting to dip, has obviously helped the club, but now if anything, it's probably once again another big motivator for that guy that has already shown that he can play at this level, to try and win his spot back. Like he's someone else that I think that in a lot of other circumstances, he would almost walk straight into the starting lineup. He's got the skills. He's certainly sort of shown that he's got the output on the right day. He's just unfortunate that he's sort of stuck behind, a front, 3 or 4 that are, all playing at the sort of the, best form of their careers. And, in saying that, I think that there's probably no better place for him to learn as a footballer, other than being sort of surrounded by other similar players that are playing so well at the moment. And what's got to be a pretty good sort of attitude and culture around the club. So at the moment, I think we could. I think I could almost come on as a sub in the 89th minute and look all right, Furns.
Well, you'd be doing all right. And yeah, then in the board had literally just gone up to show 4 minutes worth of injury time, and was it Kulisevsky that ended up putting the ball away?
I'm not going to challenge your pronunciation, but
Kulisevsky. Just let me see if I can find the Kolikovsky.
Yeah, unfortunate, like I said, that we didn't walk away with the clean sheet there, and it was the header back across the goal, and Shaughnessy running back to try and cover it, but by that stage, like, especially after a couple of weeks on the road, you don't necessarily begrudge the guys for kind of turning off when they're 3-0 up after 91 minutes. And, like, yes, the game's not over until it's over, and we've won some and we've lost a couple, like in injury time. But I don't think that was more a incidental goal that unfortunately probably just padded the stats and, meant that we're still the second worst defensive team in the league. But thankfully we're by far and away the best in attack. So I don't think it has any real bearing on how the season's going to play out from here.
Yeah, well, we're still, I'm pretty sure, conceding less than a goal a game, as opposed to when we were before Christmas. That stat I mentioned a couple of pods ago, we were conceding an average of, we were conceding over 2 goals a game. We've definitely pulled that down to conceding at less than that. But yeah, look, it just seems to be when we do let goals in, it's rather than a complete breakdown, it's which is what was happening before Christmas. It seems to be just momentary lapses that lets a player get into space. And I mean, it was a fairly scrappy goal, like, hooked across and then headed across, and the players just, luckily managed to get himself in front of Shaughnessy, like you said. Natter was sort of Wilmering might have tried to cut out the header a little bit better if he'd have been a little bit tighter to the player that he was supposed to be marking. But look, it's, I know we're not overly concerned about that, but I know according to just the throwaway comment that Millsy made at the end of the MacArthur game, that he wasn't happy with the conceding of that goal in the stoppage time, because it would just showed that we weren't fully concentrating for the full game. So that would have been something he would definitely have talked about with the squad in the lead up to this game, and you saw what happened. But look, that was a 3-1 win away from home on the like I said, on the away trip to Perth. And then this weekend, home game Sunday afternoon, might have had a slight effect on the crowd, do you think? A lot of people were thinking it was going to be
just very, very quickly on the on that last 3 minutes. I thought the 3 minutes that we played after that goal was scored, and I think the highlights don't show it, but if we watch the match
replay,
in full again, I'm sure that we'll see that we probably created 2 or 3 more opportunities after that. So I thought it was going to be like a what is almost a Jet special at the moment, a 4-1 victory. So yeah, the rocket that they probably copped from the sidelines after conceding the goal got them moving again. We didn't park the bus. Like we got on the front foot once again. There was focus. It was an incidental goal. Didn't really. It's not going to change the course of the season, we hope. But yeah, like there's still the hunger in the guys. Even when there is a mistake made, to make up for it. And sorry, going back to
all good.
I'm assuming you're going to talk about crowd for MacArthur.
Yep. Well, I was working night shift, so unfortunately I was driving to work as the game started. So I wasn't able to get along. I watched the game on replay today before we recorded, but I understand quite a few of my fellow Jetstream contributors were in attendance. How was the occasion?
It was good. I actually took my daughter to her first, like she's only just turned 3. So I took my daughter to her first A-League match. I've been watching upcoming fixtures for a game that wasn't on a Saturday and didn't kick off too late and wasn't going to be, 35 degrees, for, sort of something that was kind of sort of family friendly. And I think she sort of enjoyed the experience. I will sort of let you know, in advance that we had to leave probably 10, 15 minutes before the final whistle was blown. There's only, so many hot dogs and maxi bonds that you can feed to a 3-year-old before they're like, just, over it.
Did you at least tell her that it's not always going to be like this?
No, not at all. I said it's always like this. Like, her highlights, mate, were the pyrotechnics, which scared her at first when we were sitting on the family hill. Like they and having all the flames go off. She got scared by that, and then I showed her that her frozen magic could turn the flames out, and she was like, shh. And turning them all off, she thought it was great. And I think the second biggest highlight for her, to be honest, was when they played a quick snippet of Taylor Swift at halftime.
Oh, really?
But yeah, whatever gets the kids coming back.
Was Knowlesy a big hit with the kids, or was he probably more for the slightly older people?
I don't think she knew who he was or cared.
Well, what about you? Was Knowlesy right up your alley? How did that go down, or how did it seem to go down with everybody else?
Oh, mate. Honestly, I couldn't give less of a shit about Knowlesy playing prior to the game. Like, I heard the backstory behind it, as far as like what the KPIs were to get him there, and I thought that was amusing.
Give that backstory for anyone who might not know.
Can't remember it fully, but apparently Morris said to Millsy that if we were top of the table by the end of January, that he'd get Knowlesy to come and open up. Was that true?
I don't know.
I seem to remember.
So we've got Millsy to thank for this.
I'm pretty sure it was Millsy that maybe I might call Tane during the week and just get some confirmation on that.
Yep,
but,
righto.
Yeah,
well, Morris did manage to get Simon Kerwood to pay for it.
That was mentioned somewhere on the telecast, I think, that or on New FM, or one of the other local radio stations, in some news report anyway, that apparently it was a deal between Millsy and Morris that if at the end of January that Jets were top of the table, that he'd get Hannah Knoll to come and open up. So good on him. He's like stuck to his word.
Well, what's going to? I wonder what the treat's going to be if we're top of the table by the end of the season.
Yeah.
Who's a bigger act than Shannon Knoll? Like,
who?
What can we suggest?
If Millsy's picked Shannon Knoll, like, it might be Guy Sebastian at the end of the year. Like, don't set your hopes up too high.
Yeah, righto. He's a big fan of Australian Idol in a very specific time period. So yeah, righto. Well, look, it was something different, a good bit of fun for the crowd. He sang "Never Tear Us Apart" to kick the game off, which was great. I didn't, like I said, I wasn't there, so I didn't see any of it. I only saw what was on the match replay, and all they did was sort of cut between the starting 11s for both teams and the sound sitting there doing his little acoustic set. But yeah, anyway, that was the Knolster was in attendance, and he was mentioned as being a big Jet supporter. I don't know how true that is, but that was something that was said on the telecast. I don't know if that was actually just whoever the bloke was on commentary with Daniel McBreen. It wasn't Ben Homer. He was doing sideline reporting. It was I'm not sure if it was Robbie Thomas or whoever it was. I can't remember the bloke's name, but whoever was commentating with Daniel McBreen definitely mentioned that Knowlesy was a big Jets fan. But it's the first time hearing of it. But anyway, and apparently I think
pretty hard not to be this year.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And I did also hear, I think Craig Johnston was also at the match as well, which is great because he tends to be around town. He does pop in from time to time, which is great. We just need to try and get Harry Kuehl back, and I haven't seen Joel. Joel pops his head in occasionally. He's seen it a few games up in the chairman's lounge, but I haven't seen his face pop up on the telecast. But that doesn't mean he's not there. But yeah, we whatever we need for good luck charms, we need to keep cramming them into the stadium. But long-winded way of getting to a question, which was Sunday night. There was a lot of people thinking that the game might get high teens, like looking 17, 18 rather than the 14 that actually turned up. Do you think maybe 6 p.m. on a Sunday before school went back was maybe impacted the crowd slightly?
Possibly. like I said, for me, it was the perfect or almost perfect like family friendly time, like with weather and kickoff and whatnot. Maybe if it was like a 4:30 or 5 o'clock kickoff, it might have drawn a little bit more of a crowd. But I think I mentioned in the chat as well that look, I think that the official count was probably, you know, 3K less than what it was. There were a lot of kids that were getting in that without tickets, accompanied by adults, obviously, that weren't ticking the turnstiles over. When I took my daughter in, I carried her through the turnstile. As I was walking in, there was a family of 5 where, both of and they had 3 young kids that would have been under 5. They both parents scanned tickets, and then the security guard just opened a gate for the kids to all walk through. So I know that was, Ben or Ben might have sort of said it in the chat. No, apparently they're all being counted. I didn't see sort of anyone like, ticking numbers over as far as the security went to say, these are the number of kids that are coming in. So, yeah, my gut feeling was that it wasn't sort of 18, 19, which is what I was expecting, but it was, more than 14. Like it was more than a half capacity crowd. Like you had the top of the Eastern grandstand that was completely closed, but both hills were pretty full. The Western grandstand was, pretty full. Yeah, I thought that there were probably sort of 16, 17,000 there, which, based on the, anecdotal evidence that I can present, I think there were quite a few kids sort of under the, say age of 5 that, ended up getting into the ground without a ticket and without actually registering anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that all works, but I'm sure if Tane or Morris are listening to this, they might be able to fire us a quick message and let us know whether those are actually being taken into account or not. But depending on what happens this weekend,
Hopefully they're not going to crack down on it too much though, as well, because I'm sure the sale of Maxi Bonds was through the roof.
Absolutely. Well, look, the next home games are in 2 weeks against the Wanderers, and that's a Saturday 5 p.m. kickoff. So you'd think that if we could get 14 on a Sunday, you'd be looking at, and especially with, well, I mean, ordinarily you'd think in previous seasons the Wanderers would bring a decent crowd up, but with how they're going this season, they probably won't. But you'd think just on our own strength, you'd be looking at maybe a 16 to 18,000 as a sort of a rough sort of figure to aim at. But yeah, that's looking ahead. We can talk about that.
I'm half expecting that our biggest, home crowd might be this weekend against Central Coast, like judging off,
well, yeah, don't
how many
again,
people are talking about getting the train down and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Let's hope there's not a rail strike or anything, because I think there'll be a lot of very annoyed City Rail customers if the line between, say, Fassifern and Gosford's shut down.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting. There's going to be parkings that are going to be at a premium at Gosford CBD, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that shortly. Look, like I said, the MacArthur Bulls, and look. A bit of a different game, this one. Obviously, we saw the previous home game against MacArthur ended 5-4. Unfortunately, not on our side, but it was the last time we lost. And a big turnaround in the style of game being played, especially from us. I mean, when you look at the stats, we were behind basically on most of them, including on XG, but we ended up coming out with the win. This is the sort of game we would have lost at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. MacArthur, I think this is the first time that a team's actually respected us in this year, let's call it. Where they've gone, like we recognise that the Jets are a good team. The Jets are going to, put a lot of attacking pressure on us, and we need to defend against them. And no two ways about it. Like MacArthur are a good team. Like, they were pretty unfortunate to go out of the ACL too. Um, you look at their lineup. There's a lot of experience in that lineup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that they packed their final third so heavily, whenever we had the ball, like, just made them really, really difficult to break down. But I think that's the stepping stone. I think that sort of, any team's got to take is, going from that, free flowing, like, the other team's going to attack us, but we're going to attack them better, to, we recognize that we're no longer the dogs, and we can't be. We're 4 points out at the top of the table. Like, this won't be the first time that we come up against that, and it's going to really come down to economy and efficiency, and like how well we do with our chances. And there were a lot of times in that first half where, like, I was screaming from the sidelines, shoot, shoot, shoot,
Yeah.
shoot. And there were maybe one or two sort of extra touches that they might have gotten away with, in weeks gone by, because there might have been one less defender in the box. But yeah, especially that first half, like, there were, 4 or 5 sort of opportunities that have block shots, and the final pass sort of being cut out, where we just weren't able to thread the needle and walk it into the net like we've maybe been able to in previous weeks. It was a really, really good test, and it was sort of good to see sort of how it played out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could tell when they had players like, Duke and Economides on the bench, and you had Harry Sawyer up front, just basically doing his best Lockie Rose impersonation, being a complete asshole for, the entire game, bashing around, like, trying to bowl our defenders and midfielders over, and everyone else was behind the ball and, just blocking channels. We definitely had to play a different game, and it was something that was mentioned again, like I said, in the post game chat that I watched after the game had finished. I listened to what Millsy had to say, and he was very proud of the boys. We tended to make a few more inroads in the second half, and looked a little bit more comfortable. And then, after we score, they leave Sawyer on the pitch and then bring on Economides and Mitch Duke. So we had, three
And Luke Breton.
and Luke Bratton. So we had 4 pains in the ass running around, doing the job of, that Harry Sawyer was doing in the flight. Look, they did really well to contain us and try to put us off our game. We were able to keep the ball, keep possession, but we were restricted to all of the flair stuff and the opportunities that we usually have, just basically due to the way Millet had them set up.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like they were playing sort of 5 at the back and 4 in midfield for quite a while. Like I said, Sawyer was the sort of lone man up front, and they were playing a very, very sort of slow build-up game, which meant that they were probably going to retain a little bit more possession, but not necessarily create good opportunities, other than playing crosses to, a guy that's 2.5 meters tall. It meant that, our centre backs like Natter and Shaughnessy really had to be on their game, and they're, I think Natter's come on leaps and bounds, and like Shaughnessy adds an extra bit of physicality when he needs to, probably from all his years sort of in the Scottish league. The guy never seems to be running fast, but always seems to be, in exactly the right position. And, that's probably like, one of the best lessons that he's going to be able to teach, sort of someone like Natter and the rest of the back four is, it's not about necessarily, speed and pace. Is about reading the game, and he's just been able to do that brilliantly sort of since he's come in. But every time we went on what looked, like would be a quick break, they had, 5, 6, 7, 8 players sort of in that final third, and we're just able to shut down the spaces sort of so quickly and so efficiently. Yeah, it was like a really different kind of game to watch compared to, what would have happened 2-3 months ago, where I don't think the level of respect was there from the opposition. They were more like, yeah, Jets will stuff this up. There'll be a wayward pass, or they won't score. We'll get the ball back. We'll go on a quick break, and then we'll stretch them, and then potentially score at the other end. Now, I don't think teams can't afford to do that. They've got to actually protect their goal, because you know they know that if they give the opportunities to us, that we're going to put the ball in the back of the net, and they're going to be lucky now, like with the way that our defense is sort of shaping up with the back four and Delinov. They're going to be actually lucky to be able to put it past us. So no, it's what you want to see, I guess, from us playing at home, is other teams to actually show that respect. And I think it's been 10 years since I've seen that.
Yeah. Just having a scroll through the stats, and it's probably quicker to mention the stats that we were ahead of MacArthur on, because 90% of the stats was all in favour of MacArthur. We ended up with more shots on target than they did. We didn't really come out ahead on big chances missed because we didn't have any. We didn't end up with any offsides. We hit the woodwork once. They didn't hit any at all. We were ahead on XG on target. That was 0.88 to 0.22. Everything else they were ahead on. We had 8 blocks to 5 and 38 clearances to 13 and 8 successful dribbles to 4. Everything else was MacArthur had more possession, more XG, more shots, more big chances, more passes made, more fouls, more corners, more shots total, more shots off target, more shots inside the box, more shots outside the box. All the 3 out of the 4 XG scores they were ahead on, and were ahead on everything in passes and almost ahead on everything in defence. So they were not necessarily all over us, and the stats don't always tell the full story as to how the game goes, but they were definitely putting us off our game, and we had, like I said, we had to change the way we play, and pick our moment, and luckily we did, which we'll get onto shortly. But yeah, I was just really surprised when I scrolled through the stats on FOTMob that we barely. We look through those stats on any of the other games in this 8-run winning streak. The Jets would be ahead in 80% of the stats, whereas in this game we were behind on 90% of them.
Once again, I'm going to pull out if you remember back when, and it was prior to Christmas, when I said that we were rarely getting more yellow cards than the opposition, and sometimes getting a yellow card to break up play isn't necessarily a bad thing. It sort of shows a bit of hunger, a bit of football now sometimes as well. We're actually ahead on yellow cards, Furns.
Yeah.
I know it was only 2-1, but yeah, sometimes that that professional foul in the right part of the field, whether it's warranted or not, and I can't actually remember the Justin Adams yellow cards sort of off the top of my head, but the fact that we've learnt to defend and learnt to slow the play down when we need to, it's probably playing into that. It was really surprising. Excuse me. It was really surprising to see that we were down on possession, but then sort of thinking about it, they did certainly break the play up a lot and have a lot of the play sort of in their own half, and play that sort of slow build up play, especially in the first half when they only had really the one target man. They had 8 or 9 players in their own half at any one point. They weren't sort of looking to exploit us. If anything, they were just sort of they were all countermeasures. And if you can, if all you're doing is defending all game and sort of knocking the ball around you, amongst yourselves, which we've been guilty of in seasons past, then it might pad the stat sheet, but you're not necessarily going to win the game doing that. They were certainly looking for their opportunities, and the XG probably shows that they created more. And there was one really good, opportunity in the second half where Sawyer knocked it down for Mitch Duke, and I think Mitch Duke probably missed a couple, in the time that he came on, that you'd think that former Australian striker, especially if you thought he had a chance of getting into the World Cup, that he might have actually put it in the back of the net.
Yep.
Talbot's
got a couple.
Yeah, well, true, yeah. But it wasn't there were a couple of nervy moments, but by and all, even though the stats say otherwise, I thought that we pretty much controlled that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the most of the games, you'd struggle to pick a player of the match between Lockie, Eli, Will, Taylor, and Max Burgess, but pretty much from Burgess back were the sort of best players on the park. The guys further forward, except for Bayliss, who ended up scoring the goal, sort of really weren't able to impose themselves on the game a great deal due to the way that they were being marshalled by MacArthur. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see whether any of the other teams in the league pick up on how MacArthur played against us and whether they can tweak it slightly and cause us any more problems. It'll be very interesting to see how the Mariners go deploy against us this week, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, this is one of the few games where you'd be able to throw a blanket over the front five and struggle to pick it's 0.1, 0.2 with the player ratings between them. But this week, they weren't as influential and they didn't stand out as much as they had in previous games, just purely through the way the opposition played.
Yeah, and I'll go back again. We have to recognise that as much as the ladder might not confirm it, I think that MacArthur are a really good quality team. There's a lot of experience there. They've been on the back of a really sort of heavy playing schedule as well. I think that for me, MacArthur, as far as the way we play anyway, MacArthur, Adelaide and Auckland are probably going to be our three biggest sort of challenges in the latter part of the season, as far as how far we want to progress in the competition. So
not Sydney.
For me, Sydney, now that Lolly's sort of had his injuries and been out of form, seem a completely different team. Sydney with Chris Wood leading the attack is a completely different sort of proposition to what they've had in previous years. So
Chris Wood or Pat Wood?
Oh, sorry, Chris Wood, Pat Wood.
I was going to say I don't remember that transfer happening in January. They had
Chris Wood playing for him might be more of a problem, but
yeah. Well, they did bring Stammer. They did bring Stammer back, and they've also signed another international player as well.
And Stammer has certainly made a good inroads sort of since he's been here. But I don't think they've quite got the chemistry, I guess, that other Sydney teams have had at this sort of point in the season. And I mean, there's still 7 or 8 games to go, so that could certainly change. But
they'll probably get their act together just in time of when we travel down there.
Look, Melbourne Victory, probably another one that you put into the category as far as who could trouble us. Now that you've got Matter sort of playing. He's certainly in a renaissance. Him over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks is a completely different story to when we played them earlier in the season. So there's a few teams I think that are physically up for the battle. I think there's a few teams that could technically give us problems, but play teams like Matter, teams like Melbourne. Feel like that we still might have the edge over, just purely from a a youthful perspective, like with energy and the willingness to sort of make the runs, etc. Teams like Adelaide, like even though we won the game in Adelaide, that was certainly our toughest match this year. As far as they didn't back away from their game plan. Like early in the season, obviously Brisbane were just absolute pests and got under the skin and whatnot. But I think like the technical levels sort of probably showed in the last match that we played against them. Look, we're certainly not home and hosed by any stretch. And there's on the right day, I think there's 3-4 teams that could certainly beat us. But by and all, like if we continue to sort of play the same brand of football with the same intensity and the same energy levels that we have been over for the last month and 24 days as we record of this year, I think that the majority of the competition are going to be long shots to beat us. So they're going to have to go more into that sort of defensive mindset. It's just whether or not they've got the chemistry and the technical capability to keep us out. When you've got players like Dobson, Bayliss, Rose, Adams, Taylor, Burgess pulling the strings, who has been absolutely masterful, in since he's become sort of settled in that deeper lying six role. It's a tough ask for a lot of the squads in the A-League.
I reckon Burgess probably would have gone close to man of the match if Lockie hadn't have put the ball away. Again, week on week, I'm very impressed with the way Max is, shining in that position, and it's going to take probably an injury or a dip in form for Costa to even get back on the park.
Yeah, I thought Lockie, just for his industry this game, would have got man of the match even if he didn't score the goal. But Max, has set a very, very high bar. From someone that was almost an out and out 10 that you don't expect too much defensively from. Like his positional play has been absolutely brilliant over the last couple of months. His organizational skills has been absolutely brilliant over the last couple of months. And, for a young team to have, a veteran sort of playing in that role that they can sort of rally around, and he's like such a cool head under pressure. Like technically he's so good. Like, he can get, like a 50-50 ball or a 60-40 ball, from played out to him from defense, and he can turn a player and just all of a sudden he looks to play forward. Like, it's really hard to rate, give a 6 the man of the match, because the less you notice them, with the better they've been. And you haven't noticed Max a great deal over the last couple of weeks because he has been so good.
Well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk around Lockie Bayliss for the All Whites, but there is a couple of murmurings going around about Maxi Burgess for the Socceroos for these friendlies possibly coming up. Might be an outside shot at a selection, depending on availabilities of other players and stuff. You reckon that Tony might have him on speed dial, or you reckon that's probably pie in the sky stuff?
If he was 5 years younger and he moved into that position, I think that it'd be a hell of a lot more likely. I think age is the only thing that's sort of counting against him sort of now, but it's certainly not form. If I was looking for anyone in our squad for Socceroos boulders, I'd probably be looking more at Adams and Taylor. Not expecting that they'd necessarily got to get on the pitch, but just for the experience. And even like, and this is something I never thought I'd say at the start of the season, but like Daniel Wilmering, like as far as in that fullback role, he's immensely improved his defensive play, and like most of our good stuff sort of seems to come down that left hand side with his combination with Taylor. So I don't know, like I wouldn't begrudge Maxi as far as getting the call up by any means. I just think that maybe at 31, like and with his current form, like, I think he'd still do a good job, but maybe at 31, like, there might be other options that they might look at.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Popper does with the friendlies coming up here, because don't we have 2 friendlies coming up on home soil? I'm just going to Google that. Uh,
So you keep talking so I could,
yeah, we've got a friendly.
'cause
Curacao and Cameroon. I'm assuming they're being played here, and they are supposedly got 2 fixtures lined up for over in the US when we're over there before the tournament kicks off, which I think was Mexico and someone else.
look,
Yeah,
if as far as that CDM spot, you know, if you were going to look at anyone in the A League at the moment, I'm not sure that there'd be sort of too many other names sort of thrown into the ring. Like, he's been absolutely brilliant to, I think, a completely different level sort of when you're talking about international, and like, he's still, I think, learning the position a little bit, which is probably why he keeps getting better and better sort of every week. Yeah, like, once again, I wouldn't begrudge him sort of getting that call up. I think it's sort of on the doubtful sort of end of the scale.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, and it all depends on whether any of these overseas players are going to be available. Like, is he going to pick mainly an A League based team, in which case, surely there'd be a couple of Jets bolters in there. Otherwise, if he's got the other overseas players available, then he's going to be wanting to pick a squad with the strongest team possible and look to, nail down what his, systems are going to be. And his, well, this is obviously not a Socceroos podcast, but, we're top of the table and we've looked really good. And, you'd want the best for the players on your team. And, international recognition is a part of that. So, look, we'll obviously wait and see what happens.
I'd be picking Delianov over Beach at the moment anyway.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that Cameroon and Curacao on the 27th and 31st of March. So it's not that far away. But yeah, there's obviously going to be some hopefully some A-League players sprinkled in whatever squad gets picked either way. So, look, we'll quickly finish off talking about this game by just quickly going over the highlights. And 7th minute, obviously, we know when the goal was scored. So, nice little dink into the box from Clayton Taylor, and a little chip shot that didn't really end up troubling the keeper. Who was that in the middle? Was that Wilmering?
Yeah.
Yep.
With the late run
Yep.
sort of into the box. You probably would have preferred that those two players were reversed, but it's confidence, isn't it? That the fact that he actually tried that little cheeky dink instead of trying to play the ball along the deck to Lockie Rose, who was making the run as well. So yeah, it almost came off. It was sort of unfortunate, but yeah, it goes, I think, to show the growth that he's had in his game, that he was able to get in the right position at the right time.
Now, this next little phase was possibly a moment where it could have gone badly for us. So a ball on the outside, our left-hand side of the 18-yard box, dinked into Sawyer, and Shaughnessy's not looking at the ball. He's got himself all over Sawyer to try and put him off. Yeah, probably lucky that maybe that didn't get called a foul.
Oh, looking at it again, and I'm sorry, I've just
He
looked
did
at it
fall over
probably
pretty.
3 or 4 times.
He did fall over pretty easy.
He fell over pretty easy. Like, Shaughnessy let him get up, but was certainly putting pressure against the chest. And like, the semi-worrying part about it, like when you watch it again and again, and he's got the arm sort of wrapped around.
Yeah, and he's not facing the ball either. He's got his back to the ball. So anytime you do that, you run the rule of the referee pinging
not
you,
playing the ball,
pinging you
playing the
for it.
playing
Yeah,
the
playing the
player.
man.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
yeah. Um, I because
It
he's a
didn't
Jets player,
happen,
I'll just
thank
put
God.
that down to good experience from Shaughnessy. Like in the league that he's played in, like
Yeah,
he's used to the physicality, and I think he knows probably what he can get away with. Like as far as body on body contact, he didn't run straight through him and knock him over. He just put just enough on him so that like he could still get ahead to the ball, like which is pretty hard to stop. Like Harry Sawyer, you know, getting to the ball when it's 9.5 feet off the ground. But yeah, like
only 3 feet above his head.
yes, yeah, it was a worrying moment. As was the next one with the next sort of long
Yeah,
cross that went the other way, and Nada had
nada.
to try and sort of
Yeah,
deal with it as well.
but same pain in the ass player Sawyer going up again, and that was pretty much. There was a couple of other instances of that throughout the game as well, but yeah, we had a slide rule ball from Clayton Taylor, one of the few times I think he actually got on the end of it to force a keeper into a save. That's Will Dobson ducking and weaving around, forcing
And
a really good save there. That shot stung the palms.
yeah,
That ball was going in.
that was probably Dobson's sort of best moment in the first half, I think. Other than that, he'd been really, really sort of tightly marked. They hadn't let him sort of turn with the ball. They hadn't let him, build up that sort of head of steam and sort of get free. But he was able to, wriggle his way past the defender and sort of get his way sort of into the 18 and have a crack. This was whole sort of first 40 odd minutes was just really, really, good pressure. I think, like
Yep.
defensively from MacArthur. Like there's probably a couple of opportunities in other games that we've had, recently that, without the level of pressure that they've been able to exert, that we might have had a slightly better, end product. Like especially the Taylor one, that Dobson one. Like he's hasn't scored a lot of goals this year, but he's certainly been able to put them in the back of the net. And just that sort of split second less that he's had to, hit the ball sort of cleanly. It's made the difference. So yeah, it may be the blueprint for other teams moving forward. It's just whether or not they've got the quality to sort of execute it to the same level that MacArthur did.
And then the next bit was a long ball to Sawyer. All over Nada, putting the ball across, and we were able to bundle it over the goal line to concede the corner, but not the goal. So yeah, that didn't come to anything. Then in the 53rd minute, ball in from Bertolicio, free kick up toward the head. Okay, so defense heads the ball away, but Taylor gets onto it, has a couple of goes. They're swarming all over him. It ricochets out to Bayliss. He tries to whack it too, gets a second bite at the cherry and just slots the ball through someone's legs on the way through to the goal. And it was, brought the crowd alive.
It did, and I don't know whether it was something that Millsy necessarily mentioned during halftime, but it was that hesitancy in the first half to just have a crack when like you didn't necessarily have the time that made you feel comfortable. That you sort of saw Taylor in the lead up for that have one hit, then almost go for another, and then Bayliss had a hit and it still wasn't pretty, and then got the rebound and then had another one even though it was through traffic, and was actually able to challenge the keeper and put the ball in the back of the net. So them learning to play sort of against adversity into their strengths, because I think that there's half a dozen teams, half a dozen players in this Jets team that can certainly score if they get a shot on goal sort of anywhere within about 20 yards out, and it's just a matter of maximizing your chances just purely through numbers in that circumstance. There were probably 4 shots and 3 were blocked and 1 wasn't, and we ended up scoring. So yeah, it was. I think this is the first week in 6 where we haven't had a goal of the week contender.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter when you get the 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, obviously the crowd came alive when that goal went in. It was great noise, even over the telecast. But what What was the crowd atmosphere like over the rest of the game before that goal? Was there a level of frustration, or especially with a lot of people who haven't been to the game in a long time? Obviously, we know we've got a rusted-on support of 6,000 to 8,000 people that are used to this every week, but there's another subset of the crowd that have started coming back to games that may not be your patient football supporters. So what was the overall sort of atmosphere around the game like, sort of as the game unfolded before that goal went in and everyone went nuts?
Um, from my perspective, it wasn't frustration, it was excitement. I think that everyone expected that there were going to be multiple goals in the game, and it was just more a
Matter of when.
when it was going to happen rather than like if. The squadron were absolutely fantastic. On the weekend, mate, they were so loud. Like there was constant chants, constant music. There was always sort of something going on from down the other end, and you could kind of see that trickling through the crowd, even at the north end, like with the claps and the chants and all the rest of it going on. Yeah, I think they were a real driving force, to be honest with you, like
Excellent.
especially during that sort of first half.
As ex-active support, I'm very happy to hear that, because it's been a long time to try and get active support to the point where they're becoming a driving force in the stadium again, and it's great to see it happening under the new leadership.
Oh, and like honestly, apart from maybe the last two home games, you haven't seen it. Like there's always been that sort of smatterings, but you can almost tell on the telecast when the crowd mics have been turned up. Like sometimes on the telecast when there's 6,000 or 7,000 people there, it sounds just as loud as when there's 10. But yeah, from sort of sitting, like I said, at the north end on the dry hill, yeah, the squadron were fantastic. They were, I'm not going to say non-stop, but when they gave it a go, they gave it a real go, and you could sort of see even the bandwagoners, etc., were sort of buying into it. And I think that's partly because of what they were doing, and partly because of the football that they'd been sort of seeing played. Either whether it was just through news highlights or watching the game, on Paramount. Yeah, but I didn't get the sense anyway that there was frustration that we weren't scoring. It was more anticipation.
Now, off the back of Lockie Bayliss scoring, did you watch the full replay? Did you hear the sprinkler story? Cropped up a couple of times.
I watched the Milligan press conference, so that was the first time that I saw it.
Was it
I know
mentioned
that
in that
he's
too, was it?
mentioned it previously. Yeah, sprinkler story as far as why they can't get it.
No.
Why they can't get the pitch watered at halftime?
No. Different sprinkler story. There's a superstition, and Lockie Bayliss didn't want to go into too much detail, but apparently 4 or 5 of them will stand around a sprinkler before the game after they see the first row of sprinklers come on, and apparently whoever gets sprayed by the sprinkler first is usually going to score in that game. And the last 3 games that they've done this, Lockie Bayliss has scored in all 3 of them, and he's been the one that's got sprayed.
I didn't hear that
sprayed
story
first. Yeah, no, I wasn't sure if you'd actually. Yeah, but so it was mentioned. Daniel McBreen mentioned it. He said he noticed it in the pre-game in this week, and he's like, "What the hell's going on here?" So he literally asked Lockie Bayliss after the full time whistle when they interviewed him about his goal, and said, "So what's going on here?" And he said, "Well, yeah, it's a little thing we've got going. There's a bunch. We're going to have to try and keep a lid on it, because otherwise half the team's going to be standing around a sprinkler before the game kicks off to try and get wet." And yeah, so it's an interesting, funny story, but it's apparently better than getting an octopus to choose who's going to score your goal for the week, because a random gathering around a sprinkler. So if you're going to the game and you're seeing them standing around a sprinkler head for no apparent reason, and there's someone getting squirted, now you know why. That person's going to score.
Oh, I guess it's just as likely as me not tipping him in our tipping comp
Well,
that
yes.
they win.
Well, well, so
So,
that's a good. It's a.
if
We won't
it's
worry about the rest of the game
if it's
because
working,
we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. But we'll get to the tipping comp in a minute. But was there a man of the match that you had? Were you happy to stick with Lockie Bayless?
I think I
I'm
have
obviously
to.
going to stick
Yeah,
it with Lockie Bayless as well. But like I said
yeah.
earlier, I think Maxi Burgess was a very good second. Even though I noticed that actually can't remember who had second points in the Tobin. I think it might have been Mark Natter, and Harry Sora I think got one. But I know there was a lot of high player ratings in the bot mob for the guys. And let's see. Oh look, we can quickly talk about how after the goal went in, like I mentioned earlier, they pulled off a couple of midfielders, brought on Economides and Duke and Bratton. So that was sort of the point where I think maybe hearts were in mouths for the remainder of the game, thinking, is this going to is this not going to work out for us? But we were able to weather the storm, and like I mentioned, Talbot put a couple of fairly decent opportunities well and truly over the goal. Some of them were almost AFL kicks through the sides, but we were able to weather the storm for the remaining couple of minutes of the remaining 15 minutes of the game, and we were able to come away with the win.
Oh, and like, I mean, if we're going to talk glass half full, you've got to also mention like Lucky Bayless's Matter impersonation on the 56th minute where he's tried to hit it over the keeper from 40 odd yards out, like after a tackle deflection. So
Oh, yep,
we still
that just popped.
had
Yep,
opportunities,
yep.
but by and all, there was Mitch Duke had a couple of really, really good high sort of XG opportunities, I think, like including one where he failed to sort of tap it in from probably 2 meters out after a Sawyer, head back across the goal. Like, there were hearts and mouths. I was probably lucky that I had to leave the game, with about 15 to go. As we were walking back to the car, I'm trying to watch it on Paramount, but I could obviously hear the crowd reaction 20 seconds before I could actually see the telecast.
Yep. I think maybe everybody watched the New Zealand derby, the Kiwi derby, and saw the absolute hash the goalkeeper made of that long ball. So maybe they're all going to try it now to see if it goes in or not. See if the goalkeeper's having a bad day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess he's been hit by the sprinkler, so apparently, he might as well give it a go.
You may as well give it a go. Absolutely right. I think that's pretty much all we need to cover off with that game. Man of the match. I'm just having a look through any of my my notes here that I put down. The only other thing we needed to mention, there's two things before we get on to the preview for next week. The tipping comp for we're running amongst all our all of our Jetstream contributors. Dr. Emma is obviously still way above, but Luke had a perfect round this week and ended up getting an extra 5 bonus points, so he's literally 1 point behind. I managed to pull a few results out of my backside, and I'm in third spot. Mate, where are you sitting?
Yeah, I would like
to drop you in that.
To put the caveat on it that once again, since I've gone to picking against the Jets over the last 8 weeks, because the last time I didn't pick the Jets to lose was the MacArthur game before that, and I picked a draw, and obviously we lost that match. I'm currently 6 points behind you, Furns. So I would like to say that if I'd been able to pick the Jets, that I'd probably be 2 points ahead of you. So I'd be in third.
Well, you did pretty well last week. You picked 4, but and I only got 4 as well. But it's look. What's your strategy? Are you going to change your tipping strategy to try and get yourself more points on an unofficial tipping competition, or are you gonna continue with the strategy of letting the Jets win by tipping against them?
I'm definitely going to keep tipping against the Jets
That's the big
as
question.
much as it's probably going to hurt me in the tipping comp. The only other game that I got wrong, I think, was the Melbourne Derby, and I thought that I'd picked victory. To be honest with you, looking at the tips, I picked City. I think we need to bring in another rule that if I can pick 5 out of 6 and the Jets is the only one that I get wrong, that I should get the bonus points as well. Oh, but whatever. I mean, if I'm the reason that they win the championship and the premiership, then so be it. It's not the sprinkler, mate. It's me tipping against them.
Yeah, well, I definitely
I worked out sports bet.
I picked the draw because I
I worked
usually
out
pick a draw. Yeah,
I
go.
worked out though that sports bet doesn't have the same karma attached to it, so I can still bet on the Jets.
Okay. This particular tip.
I can't pick them in our comp.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I was myself and Clarkey were the only ones that weren't traders and didn't tip the Mariners to win against Wanderers. And I picked a draw in the Melbourne Derby, thinking that that's how most derbies turn out. Hoping against hope that was what was gonna happen. But those were the two I fell over on. All the other ones I did pretty well. But yeah. So look,
Very much for your second team.
Hey. Oh, Wellington.
What about your second team?
Yeah, Wellington. I'll tip
what
Wellington.
About your second team?
My second team is Wellington. I wasn't going to tip them. They've never won a derby. That's why I couldn't pick them. I couldn't pick them in this one, and it come up. That's what happened, and they started.
That's been great.
Yeah. Okay, so this weekend, massive game, a big fixture for us to get revenge from round one. Travelling down to Gosford on Saturday, 5 p.m. kickoff to face the Mariners in the F3 Derby. They won last week, a 3-2 win against Wanderers. I didn't see any of the game, but apparently exciting, etc. Don't really see that as a logical descriptor when it comes to Central Coast. But looking before we get into that, I might actually bring up the table. It still bears awesome reading. The Jets, obviously, out in front, 4 points clear on 36 points. Auckland, 32 points. Sydney FC, 29. Adelaide, 29. Melbourne Victory, 27. MacArthur, 25. Central Coast, 22 in 7th position. Melbourne City, 22. Brisbane Roar, 22. Perth Glory, 20. Wellington Phoenix, 20. Western Sydney Wanderers, 17. So, look, first place, 7th. We've got all the momentum. We're going for 9 wins in a row. If we win this game and we then host Western Sydney Wanderers, who have the all-time winning streak record of 10 wins in a row. We play them the next game. So to equal them, we need to win this week. We need to win against them the following week. Can we do it?
I hate myself saying this, but don't underwrite the Central Coast. They're unbeaten in their last 5.
Yep.
And as much as I think we can, pick Central Coast just because otherwise the walls are going to come crumbling down. So we know who I'll be going for, but my tip is officially going to be Central Coast.
But okay. So you can you don't have to tip the Jets. You can say that we're gonna. I'll
give a score prediction.
You have been saying the Jets are going to win on the podcast, but you haven't been tipping the Jets on the tipping comp. So is that your get out of jail free card? Because you have been saying the Jets.
I reckon it'll be 8-0 to Newcastle, but I'm going to pick Central Coast on the tipping comp.
Righto. Okay. Well, look, I'm just going to get into their game and into their last match. And pull their.
They won 3-2. They came from behind.
Yeah, I'm going to pull their. I'm going to pull their squad up.
Scored.
What?
Scored in injury time, I think.
Where did they? What did they play? What day did they play? Saturday.
They played Western Sydney from memory.
What day?
Sorry, I haven't got it.
Sunday.
Oh, on the Sunday. Yeah. I think they played Western Sydney.
Yeah, they did, but I'm trying to find the game. Here it is. Yep, sorry, I had to scroll down to find it. So looking at their lineup, Redmayne in goal, Storm Rue, James Donachie, Tap, Moragus, Ogler, Donnell, Steele, Taniguchi. So that was one of their new players from Japan. Laval, DePizio, and on the bench they had Eames, Blair, Nasso, and Gore, Brandman, Perriat, Cullen, and Paul. So not really a list of names that A, roll off the tongue, and B, anybody's really heard of, apart from, Storm Rue and James Donachie,
Andrew Redmayne.
Andrew Redmayne and Lucas Moragus. But look, they've, like you said, they've looking at their last 5 fixtures. You said they've won the last 5, and
No, they've drawn 3-1-2. They've won their last 2.
won their last 2, right?
Uh,
And looking at the looking at the stats, they were behind on a lot of the stats as well. Like Western Sydney were all over them. It was a similar. It looks like a similar readout.
won their last 3 actually.
It looks like a similar readout to us against the MacArthur. Basically, Central Coast were only ahead on a couple of the stats. Western Sydney Wanderers were basically far and away ahead on just about everything else.
Yeah, there's only one stat that really matters, though.
Well, that's very
right?
true. Exactly right. So looking at the head-to-head,
if you had have looked at the stats from our game and not watched it, you'd be predicting a massively different, result. But yeah,
so
we'll see how it goes.
Looking at the head-to-head, it's 21 wins to the Coast, 12 draws, 13 wins to the Jets. The last couple of games, so obviously the last game that we lost was a 3-2 away loss on the 19th of October. 6-0 home win on the 12th of April. A 2-2 draw on the 1st of Feb. And then back in 2024, we had a 2-1 home loss, 3-1 home loss, and a 1-0 away loss. So, look, it's been looking a lot better recently, but we're obviously the team with all the momentum. I'm just hoping that by saying that, I'm not jinxing us in this particular fixture, because we all hate. Doesn't matter whether we're going down there or they're coming up here. We all hate losing against them. So I'm really hoping we can keep the momentum going.
Feeling that I've got a feeling like you look at the table, and we're now top of the table as far as goal difference goes, even after that sort of shocking start to the season where we were conceding so many. I've really got a feeling that the crowd is going to come into this a lot, and so we're probably lucky that it is a derby, that like it's fairly easy sort of traveling down to Gosford, and I would expect that I know that officially tickets were 14,000 to our home game, but you'd expect probably half of those to make the trip down to Central Coast. So I'm expecting quite a few sort of packed bays, and it to be very, very loud from the away supporters, down at Gosford this weekend.
Yeah, and obviously take your memberships down to Gosford to enter for free, as is the deal between the clubs. But hoping that it's going to be a massive contingent of away fans down there. Now, remember, I did hear that the last game away we had some issues with those. They had to open, or they were forced to open, the above grandstand that they didn't want to. They'd only set aside not a huge amount of people, but they had more people turn up than they thought. So there was some issues around the previous game away in Gosford where they were struggling to handle the number of members that turned up that wanted to get in for free. So hopefully they've ironed out those problems for this time, but it's probably going to be an idea to make sure you get to the ground early. Are you going to be traveling down for this?
can't say definitely at this stage. Like, I work Saturdays and I don't technically finish work until 5 o'clock. I am doing what I can to try and wrap things up at work by 3 and give myself a little bit of an early mark. I can't promise that's going to happen at this stage, but I would say it's better than likely that I might be taking a couple of hours of unpaid leave and sort of making the trip, getting on the train at Fassifern.
Yep. Well, the the relevant information from the squadron page is there will be the train they're looking to try and get as many people on as they can is departing from Hamilton Station at 11:01. That means 11:05 at Broadmeadow, 12 past 11 at Cardiff, 37 past 11 at Morisset, and arriving at Gosford by 9 minutes past 12. And the march will be departing the hotel, Gosford Hotel, at 4 p.m. So pre-match, as usual, is at the Gosford Hotel. Hopefully they've loaded up on the schnitties and steaks because that kitchen is going to be busy, and hopefully the beers is going to be cold and plentiful because there's going to be it's going to be one of their best days of the season. So hopefully it's going to be like the away derby trips of old. There's going to be hopefully a lot of familiar faces from the past going to be rocking up to this game. I will be there myself as well. I'm actually off this weekend, thank God. So I'm actually able to get to at least one derby this season, and this is going to be it. I'm going to be down. I'm going to be getting along to the game as well. So probably not much else we can talk about to preview this game that I'm, don't need to get into too much more minutiae. So you're tipping a win. I'm also going to tip a win because I think I'm pretty much over the fact that I was jinxing us, but now I'm not because I've tipped us for most of the pods that we've done during the winning streak. So I'm quite comfortable in this.
No, I'm still not tipping a win.
You're not
I'm
tipping
still
a
tipping
win.
a loss. I'm still tipping a loss. I can't officially
You can't officially tip a win.
say
Right.
that
Okay.
we're going to win. Sorry.
That's all right.
No,
Not a
I
problem.
can't.
Righto. Now, looking at the so that's, like I said, get along to the everyone's going to be travelling down. So make sure you arrive early, get your tickets early if you have to, if you don't have a membership, but make sure you're getting down to Gosford for this game because it's going to be huge. Right, so the rest of the tips for this round, mate. So round 20 starts off. No, hang on, that's not the one. Round 19 is what we're looking for. Starts off on the Friday, 27th, 7:35 p.m. kickoff. Melbourne Victory hosting Adelaide United at Amy Park. I'm tipping a draw for this one.
I've got to go Victory. I think they hit a bit of a purple patch or a royal blue patch, and they seem to be, getting into a bit of form at the right time of the season. So, as much as the table position doesn't necessarily show it, I think they're a bit of a dark horse for finals. And I'll go Victory.
Now, really weirdly, there's 5 games on Saturday. So the first game before the derby is 3 p.m. kickoff from New Zealand. Auckland facing Melbourne City. I'm also picking a draw in this one.
I'm going to go Auckland. They've just been Mr. Consistent all year, except for when they play us. So, sort of City off the back of a pretty big defeat in the derby, having to travel away from home. Auckland.
Okay, the derby is the following game at 5 p.m. 6 o'clock sees for some, so there's a game at 6 o'clock. We're starting at 5. Brisbane hosting Perth. This is at KO Stadium, so Redcliffe. I am tipping Brisbane in this one.
Look, after the most clippable manager in the A-League said that they didn't learn anything after their 4-0 defeat against Adelaide last week, I can't pick Perth. I'm probably going to go Brisbane. So, I think Brisbane will get up.
Yeah, it sounds like they might. There's mail, I think, around that Adam is probably not going to have the job beyond the end of the season. Possibly they are looking. I don't know if they were looking at Chiefy or they were looking at someone else, but there was rumours going around that that Perth are
Robbie
maybe.
Stanton.
Robbie Stanton. That's it. That's who I was thinking. Yeah, they're possibly looking at tapping up Robbie Stanton to take over at the end of the season, and and then Adam Gudd does what he wants. Hopefully with a mic in front of
He
him.
can. Yeah, well, that's it. Like, I mean, the responses were certainly a lot shorter after the last game. We didn't get the mountain goat analogies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was literally like, what did you learn after the last match?
Nothing.
It was it bad that they scored, and it was the timing bad when they scored just before the break. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Monosyllabic doesn't really make. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last game on Saturday night, 7:35 p.m. kickoff is a Western derby of sorts. MacArthur hosting Western Sydney. I'm picking MacArthur in this one because Wanderers are still shit.
Yeah, I'm going MacArthur as well.
All right.
Yeah,
and
MacArthur are still a very strong team.
And the final game on Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff, is Wellington hosting Sydney. Unfortunately, I would be ordinarily picking Wellington in any rate, but with the Derby loss and Chiefy handing in his resignation and no idea who's going to be taking over this team, it's going to be too difficult, I think, for them to pull their socks up for this. I think Sydney's probably going to be too strong.
I had Sydney locked in, honestly, on my picks. But then, after realizing, or you reminding me that Chiefy resigned, you've got to go the new coach bounce back. So I'm actually going to pick Nix for an upset, which will help us out.
Is there a new coach? Well. Is there a new coach been announced, or is it just the assistant taking over?
Even if it's the assistant, something's going to happen. So it's just the way of the A-League.
Right.
So
all right.
So, I'll go Wellington. I've got to make these points back somewhere.
Right. Okay. I'm still sticking
home teams to win.
I'm sticking with Sydney. And you're sort of swaying me towards tipping Melbourne and Auckland. I picked them for the draws in the first two games, but
mate, I'm last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you listening to my tips?
I don't know. The last bit of news that came out a couple of hours before we started recording, actually, was the first re-signing has been announced. Joel Bertolicio has re-signed for 2 seasons, and after what he's been able to accomplish this season, fantastic result.
Yeah, and let's hope that over the next sort of 5 or 6 rounds we get more news like this every week.
It'd be nice.
Realistically, you'd like to see sort of every member of that starting 11, announce that they're sort of staying on for the ACL2 and possibly ACL1, next year, depending on how the rest of the year plays out. We've got a good thing. The beauty, I think, that we've got at the Jets at the moment is that financially it's a fairly sort of level playing field, so we're not going to get blown out of the water as far as contract offers go. And there's a culture and an opportunity base that's sort of been built that I think a lot of the players are sort of starting to buy into. So I think our chances of retaining players are a lot higher than what they have been in seasons past.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And he's also represented by he who shall not be named. So if he's the first domino to fall, hopefully there's going to be a few more others that are going to be re-signing contracts as well from that particular cohort. So there'll be a few players that we'd definitely like to keep, especially if they're being courted by overseas clubs who want to try and get transfer fees for them. That we need to lock them into deals. So hopefully that particular relationship is thawing a little, and hopefully those players will be remaining on the books. But we'll see how that unfolds. Mate, we've done pretty well, hour and a half for missing a week, so we're sort of pretty much on par whenever you and I sit down and talk about stuff. So it's pretty much an average result.
Well, average result is a Jets win at the moment, so let's keep them coming.
Yeah, let's not fix anything that's not broke. So, mate, really appreciate you jumping on again and joining me. And fingers crossed, we'll be able to get back on next week and talk about something positive from the away trip.
Absolutely. Sore heads and all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for listening, subscribing, messaging, etc. Everything. Guys, really appreciate it. Get along to newcastlefootball.net. I am slowly getting that thing fixed. Hopefully we won't be getting as many database errors and all that sort of stuff that seem to be being caused by an absolute plethora of Chinese bots crawling all over the website, soaking up bandwidth. So I've IP blocked a lot of them. So fingers crossed that's done the trick, and with a bit more stability, I'll be able to upgrade the forum software in the next couple of weeks. So that is still in the works, but fingers crossed things are a little bit more stable. Definitely, if you are struggling to get onto the website, drop us a DM or an email, podcast@newcastlefootball.net, or we are on all the socials, Jetstream Newy, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Threads. Yeah, and get along to the newcastlefootball.net/podcast for all the subscription links. Like I said, mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we are also on YouTube Music, so you can subscribe to the podcast through that particular service if that's what you use instead of Spotify or Apple Music, but we are also available on those services as well. All right, until next time, go Derby Week and vamos el Jerkos.
Come on, the Jets.
Please don't lose. Oh,
I'm still banned.
I don't know whether to.
I'm still banned from the forums too. So.
Are you?
Or at least can't get on.
Really? I'm gonna have to look at that. Find out.
Yeah.
I'll do that as soon as we go offline.